The coronavirus pandemic is upending our lives in ways many people could not have imagined. Work and socializing now mostly confined to home. Schools obviously closed. Most long-term plans canceled. And while some in the federal government seemed caught off guard, this very problem is something some leaders did warn about. One of the world's most accomplished innovators took to a public stage 5 years ago, warning about pandemics. It all sounds quite prescient now to hear Bill Gates' advice then.
If anything kills over 10 million people in the next few decades, it's most likely to be a highly infectious virus rather than a war. We have invested a huge amount in nuclear deterrence, but we've actually invested very little in a system to stop an epidemic. We're not ready for the next epidemic.
That was 2015. Gates going public with the evidence showing the U.S. was not ready for this kind of pandemic. So as part of our ongoing special coverage, right now we turn to our report on these warnings, what they reveal about the U.S. response today, and more critically, how they can inform our approach in the future and potentially save lives.
Save lives. Save lives.
Because of everything going on with Rudy Giuliani, Powell's Kraken, the insanity that's been happening around the election, doing streams over on Newsaloo's channel, and Thanksgiving, I haven't had time to address something very important, which is, of course, the lockdown fiasco. Something very interesting came out about 5 days ago from Johns Hopkins University, and within an hour, it was pulled from the site. Gee, I wonder why that could be.
What happened?
Oh no, I lost him.
It's entitled, A Closer Look at U.S. Deaths Due to COVID-19. It says, according to new data, the U.S. currently ranks first in the total COVID-19 cases, new cases per day, and deaths. Genevieve Briand, Assistant Program Director of the Applied Economics Master's Degree Program at Hopkins, critically analyzed the effect of COVID-19 on U.S. deaths data from the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC. From mid-March to mid-September, the U.S. death totals have reached 1.7 million, of which 200,000, or 12% of total deaths, are COVID-19 related. Instead of looking directly at COVID-19 deaths, Briand focused on total deaths per age group and per cause of death, and used this information to shed light on the effects of COVID-19. She explained that the significance of COVID-19 on U.S. deaths can be fully understood only through comparison to the number of total deaths in the U.S. After retrieving data from the CDC, Briand compiled a graph representing percentages of total deaths per category from early February to early September, which included the period from before COVID-19 was detected in the U.S. to after the infection rates soared. Surprisingly, the deaths of older people stayed the same before and after COVID-19. Since COVID-19 mainly affected the elderly, experts expected an increase in the percentage of deaths in older age groups. However, we don't see this increase from the CDC data. In fact, the percentages of deaths on all groups remain relatively unchanged. Briand said, "The reason we have a higher number of reported COVID deaths among older individuals than younger individuals is simply because every day in the U.S. older individuals die in higher numbers than younger ones." She also noted that 50 to 70,000 deaths are seen both before and after COVID-19, indicating that this number of deaths was normal long before COVID-19 emerged. Therefore, according to Briand, not only has COVID-19 had no effect on the percentages of deaths of older people, but it has also not increased the total number of deaths in general. These data analyses suggest that, in contrast to most people's assumptions, the number of deaths by COVID-19 is not alarming. In fact, it has relatively no effect on the death totals in the U.S. This comes as a shock to many people. How is it that the data lies so far from our perception? How indeed? How many times on this channel in the last few years I've been doing this have we shown the willingness and the plan of media lies around all kinds of topics? And then this year, How many times on live streams, on other people's streams, and on the videos I've done previously, especially my deep double analysis videos, have I shown you direct proof of the mainstream media and our politicians bold-faced lying to us about things on purpose to serve the agenda? Going back to the article. To answer that question, Briand shifted her focus to the deaths per causes ranging from 2014 to 2020. There is a sudden increase in deaths in 2020 due to COVID-19. This is no surprise because COVID-19 emerged in the U.S. in nearly 2020, and thus COVID-19 related deaths would drastically increase afterward. Analysis of deaths per 2018 revealed the pattern of seasonal increase in the total number of deaths is a result of the rise in deaths by all causes, with the top three being heart disease, respiratory disease, influenza, and pneumonia. This is true every year in the U.S. when we observe the seasonal ups and downs. We have an increase of deaths due to all causes, she pointed out. When Briand looked at the 2020 data during that seasonal period, COVID-19 related deaths exceeded deaths from heart disease. This was highly unusual since heart disease has always prevailed as the leading cause of deaths. However, when taking a closer look at death numbers, she noted something strange. As Briand compared the number of deaths per cause during that period in 2020 to 2 years ago, 2018, she noticed that instead of the expected drastic increase across all causes, there was a significant decrease in deaths due to heart disease. Even more surprising, as seen in the graph below, this sudden decline in deaths is observed for all other causes. All other causes of death since the COVID-19 so-called pandemic has started, plummeting. All causes of deaths are down. What have I said for months? What did I posit in my last deep double analysis video? Moving back to the article now. This trend is completely contrary to the pattern observed in all previous years. Interestingly, as depicted in the table below, the total decrease in deaths by other causes almost exactly equals the increase in deaths by COVID-19. What have I been saying for months? This suggests, according to Briand, that the COVID-19 death toll is misleading. Briand believes the deaths due to heart disease, respiratory disease, influenza, and pneumonia may instead be recategorized as being due to COVID-19. What have I said in my previous videos, huh? Haven't I said exactly this? And now that it comes out in an official channel from an official person, from a medical institute, this article is zapped and all traces of it scrubbed from official sources in less than an hour? Oh gee. I wonder why that is. Anyway, moving back to the article. The CDC has classified all deaths that are related to COVID-19 as simply COVID-19 deaths. Even patients dying from other underlying diseases that are infected with COVID-19 count as a COVID-19 death. This is likely the main explanation as to why COVID-19 deaths drastically increase while deaths by other diseases experienced a significant decrease. All of this points to no evidence that COVID-19 created excess deaths. Total death numbers are not above normal death numbers. We found no evidence to the contrary, she concluded. I feel vindicated. Moving on, in an interview with the newsletter, she addressed the question of whether COVID-19 deaths can be called misleading, since the infection might have exacerbated and even led to deaths or other underlying diseases. This is often a point that comes up when I make my points to others, so let's see what she has to say. According to Briand, if the COVID death toll was not misleading at all, what we should have observed is an increased number of heart attacks and increased COVID-19 numbers together. But a decreased number of heart attacks and all other death causes does not give us a choice but to point to some misclassification. In other words, the effect of COVID-19 on deaths in the U.S. is considered problematic only when it increases the total number of deaths or the true death burden by a significant amount, in addition to the expected deaths by other causes. Since the crude number of total deaths by all causes before and after COVID stayed the same, one can hardly say that COVID-19 deaths are concerning. I'm going to summarize and speak out of the article here for a minute. What she's saying is, If every year you have around 100 of a thing, and you introduce a new element, and you still have around 100 of that thing, the introduced element doesn't have a major effect on the thing. What she's saying is the scamdemic is a scamdemic. That the gaslighting, the fear-mongering, the lockdowns, they are over a new element, the COVID element, that has had almost zero impact on the number of deaths. And what has the entirety of this mask bullshit and the panic buying and the lockdowns and the destruction of our small businesses, the ruination of world economies, what has it been under the banner of?
Save lives.
Saving lives. Well, where are the lives to be saved? Where are the death totals? There aren't any. It's BS, all of it. Now, going back to the article, Briand also mentioned that more research and data are needed to truly decipher the effect of COVID on deaths in the United States. Throughout the talk, Briand constantly emphasized that although COVID-19 is a serious national and global problem, yeah, right, she also stressed that society should never lose focus of the bigger picture, death in general. Even though the evidence is right in front of her, she is too scared to speak the truth with conviction. She doesn't want to lose her job. She doesn't want to be drugged by the mob. She doesn't want to be erased, just like this article was. Moving back to the article. The death of a loved one from COVID-19 or other causes is always tragic, Briand explained. Each life is equally important, and we should be reminded that even during a global pandemic, we should not forget about the tragic loss of lives from other causes. Yeah, cry me a river. I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound cold, but this stuff really twists my tits. To wrap up, Briand says that the over-exaggeration of the COVID-19 death number may be due to the constant emphasis of COVID-19 related deaths and the habitual overlooking of other deaths. Now, as I've said in previous videos, personnel and resources are limited, so they will find what they look for. My previous videos line up with this also, just to wrap it all up and continue to celebrate me being correct about things. Regardless, that's the end of this article, and I really wanted to hammer home that something official finally came out from an official source from a respectable organization on health issues, and it was a memory hold in less than an hour, and the people involved haven't appeared in any article since. So, hopefully you enjoyed tinfoil time with Granny Yizz again today. I just feel like this is important, and I like being correct, and I think that this is showing that me and the others like Dave Cullen and so many of the other truth warriors this year have been correct in mistrusting the narrative around COVID-19.
You always knew. But I, being poor, I've only my dreams. I have spread my dreams under your feet. Tread softly, because you tread on my dreams. I assume you dream, Preston. I'll do what I can to see they go easy on you. We both know they never go easy. Then I'm sorry. No, you're not. You don't even know the meaning. It's just a vestigial word for a feeling you've never felt. Don't you see, Preston? It's gone. Everything that makes us what we are, traded away. There's no war. No murder. What is it you think we do? No. You've been with me, you've seen how it can be, the jealousy, the rage. A heavy cost.